For me, the best way to serve God is to be serving people, to come alongside, whether it's the emotional, whether it's the spiritual, whether it's handing out a cup of soup to that person on the street, or handing a blanket, or being there when a disaster comes alongside and they need that encouragement. That is where we need to be as the Salvation Army. My present appointment is Krugersdorp Core, and also combined with that, I run a shelter for the destitute on the outskirts of Krugersdorp. I'm a first Salvationist, first generation Salvationist. My parents, my dad is a Catholic, was a Catholic, my mom was a Methodist, and I think the only English church in the area was the Salvation Army. We lived on a small holding outside Port Elizabeth near Greenbushes, and the only English church was the Salvation Army. And I remember the likes of Captain Stan and Irene Lotter coming to do house visitation on our farm. Just seeing them and the aura they brought about them, their walk with God, drew me to the Salvation Army and drew our family to the Salvation Army. I originally felt God's call at a young age during youth councils. Like many young people, God calls us and we answer and we go forward and we say, yes, Lord. But as time progresses and outside people influence your thinking, I put that behind me and I went into nursing, thinking that is a calling, thinking that is what God has called me to do, is to be of service to other people. I went to the Charlie Cribb Nursing College and trained and then worked for a couple of years. Late in my 20s, I really felt God calling me. I still remember sitting on a beach in Port Elizabeth, and I dropped my keys on the floor, and I picked up my keys, and on the label of the keys said, everywhere my foot shall tread, there I'll be also. And I realized, Lord, I'm not where I should be. I'm not where you have called me to be. I still put it behind me, and I did nothing about it. And eventually the calling became very strong, and I realized I need to answer the call, because it was something that was so strong within me. I remember the Bible reading was Jeremiah 29 verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper, to give you a hope. And I realized that this is where I need to be. Still thinking I'm doing something right. I left Port Elizabeth and I went to go work in Durban at Tembelen Old Age Home, Salvation Army Old Age Home, thinking I'm still in my nursing, but I'm still in a calling. It didn't work out. The Lord had something else planned for me, and I entered the college in January 1994. And it's just been an awesome experience from the beginning. College life was never for me, but it was a fulfillment. It was a growing. I learned so many new things. I realized there was so much more in army life. I'm very much a soup, soap and salvation person. I'm very much to be on the streets and caring for my community. Community life is very important, and I believe when you enter into your core, you take on the community as well. And in my present day appointment, there's been highlights, and there's been times that I've struggled. It's just been an awesome journey, a journey that I wouldn't give in to anything. If God calls me, if I had to do this all over again, I should say, I don't think there will be hesitation, because the commitment that you give to God, and you say, God, it's all about you. I'm here to do your ministry. I'm here to develop people. I'm here to care for those who are hurting. I'm here to care for those who are spiritually down. When I answered that call in my late 20s, I think it was the right time. His timing is always right. And I want to encourage people, young and old out there, if God calls you, don't worry about what is going to happen. Where will your next meal come from, or where will you get this from, or where you will get that from. God has never forsaken us. God has undertaken for us in tremendous ways. And when He lays His hand on you and He calls you by name, you have to realize that calling is going to stay. It might take you 2 years, it might take you 5, it might take you 10 years to answer that call. But you need to be honest to yourself and with God. You need to say, Lord, if it's all about you, and where do you want me to be? And if it's in the college, and if it's in the college for officer training, and it's to serve a community with the Word of God, that's where you need to be.